What's up, Math 8? Today we are doing 1.2 and 1.3 in your book. They go hand in hand, okay? And really we're talking about exponents and powers and things like that. So we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. This is going to be, we're going to start on page 16, and then we will jump around a little bit after we finish up 1.2 and just jump straight into 1.3. Okay, so for 1.2, we're starting with powers, which is dealing with exponents. Okay, some important things to know here is that when we say powers, we're talking about, like for this example, powers of 2. Okay, and then the two parts of that are the base, okay, which is the number, the big number that we're multiplying multiple times, I guess you could say. So in this case, it would be 2. We're multiplying that 4 times. And the exponent is what tells you how many times we are multiplying it by itself. So how many times we're multiplying the base by itself. So for this one, you can see we're multiplying 2 4 times. So we have 1, 2, whoops, that was not supposed to be a highlighter. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 2's, and we're multiplying all of them together. Okay. So yeah, that's what exponents are. And yeah, that's basically it for that part. So we'll go ahead and go down to example 1. It says write each expression using exponents. Okay, this one, it gives us -2 times -2 times -2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, so basically all we want to do is look at our numbers. We're going to count up how many times each one of them shows up. Okay, so we have -2 first. So I'm going to go ahead and write -2, and then I'm going to count how many times we're multiplying -2 by itself. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in parentheses and put -2 to the third power. Okay, real quick side note, make sure when you have negatives, you go ahead and put those parentheses there. Okay, if you don't put those parentheses, what you're actually saying is that you have -2 to the third. Okay, for this one, it doesn't really matter. But if you were to do like -2 squared, okay, this is suggesting that you're solving it like this, which would be negative, and then 4 on the inside, so it would be -4. What you're doing when you put everything in the parentheses is now we're saying -2 times -2, rather than saying the other way around, which is -2 times 2. Okay, so one of them is -2, the other, or sorry, -4, the other one is +4. Okay, that's why it's important that we have the distinction. So you need to go ahead and make sure, if you don't understand any of what I just said, that's okay. Just know you need to have the parentheses for negatives. Okay, so there's our -2's, and then our 3's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 3's. So we're going to multiply -2 to the third times 3, and there are 4 of them, so 3 to the fourth. Okay, that is going to be our simplification when we just put it into exponential form. Okay, we can do the same thing with letters, okay, or variables. So when we look at x's and y's, sometimes we're going to see this as well. So we have a times b times b times a times b. Okay, we can change the order so that we get them all nicely sorted. So we have a times b times b times b. Okay, and now again we're just counting how many times each one shows up. So a shows up twice, so the exponent is 2, and we're multiplying that by b 1, 2, 3 times, so it's b to the third. Okay, and that'll be your final answer for this one. All right. I want you to go ahead and try out A, B, and C. A might be a little bit more of a challenge just because we haven't looked at fractions, okay? But your hint is treat it the same way that we treated the negatives up here in example 1. All right? And then the other two, I think you won't have too much trouble with them if you understood 1 and 2. So go ahead and do that, and then we will move on again. Okay, so example 3, this is on page 17, looks at negative 2/3 to the 4th power. Okay, so it's looking at this. All right, this is something you are able to use your calculator on. However, it's important you know how it works, okay? So just remember that this is the same thing as if we had negative 2/3 times negative 2/3 times negative 2/3 times negative 2/3, okay? One thing that you can do when you put it in your calculator, first of all, so there's a few different ways you can do it. First of all, you can type it in something like this, where you've got in parentheses negative 2 divided by 3 or negative 2/3. And then you can put it to the 4th power. And we can go over in class how to do that on a calculator as well. But you can also do negative 2/3 times negative 2/3 times negative 2/3 times negative 2/3 with all of those in parentheses, okay? And then the last way that you can do this is you can actually take this number in the calculator and you can do negative 2 to the 4th power, okay, and then do 3 to the 4th power, okay, that'll give us negative 2/3 to the 4th power, okay, and then just simplify that. All right, so negative 2 to the 4th power is 16, 3 to the 4th power is 81, so that would be your final answer. Any of these ways that you did that, that's what you're going to end up with. All right. I won't make you worry about the got it problems for that one. Okay. But we are going to look real quickly at example number 4, which says the deck of a skateboard has an area of about 2.5 times 7 square inches. What is the area of the skateboard deck? Okay, so 2 to the 5th, just remember, that just means 2 multiplied 5 times. So there's 3, 4, 5, and then it also said times 7. So then we multiply all that by 7. You can put that into your calculator as well. That will give you, it said 224, right? Yep, 224. Sorry, I don't know that one off the top of my head, so I had to look back. Okay, so that's what you get when you do that one. Real simple. So it's 224 square inches. All right. And then lastly, we've got example 5 and example 6. Okay. This is where we've got, let's see, they said a squared plus b to the 4th. Okay. And then they tell us that a is 3 and b is 5. Okay, so we'll go ahead and plug that in. So a is 3 and b is 5. Okay, now we're just doing the same thing. So 3 times 3, I'm going to put that in parentheses just to make it a little bit easier to see what I need to do. And then 5, times 5 times 5 times 5. I'm going to simplify all that. So 3 times 3 is 9. 5 to the 4th power is 125 plus 5, or times 5, which is 625, they say. I'm going to believe them on that. All right, and then we just add those two together. 625 plus 9 is going to be 634. So that would be your final answer for that one. All right, so that is it. That's it for 1.2. and we're going to go ahead and move on to 1.3. All right, so 1.3, we're on page 24 now. Okay, so we skipped ahead a little ways. But we're going to look at multiplying powers. Okay, basically how this works is, this is really important that you know this. Okay, whenever we multiply powers with the same base, or the same big number, you can say, you're just going to add their exponents together. Okay, and they show a really good example of why right here. Okay, so what they're showing us is we have 3 squared times 3 to the 4th power. Okay, if we were to go ahead and write that out, that would be 3 times 3, and then times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, now you can see because this is multiplication right here, this is all, everything's just being multiplied together. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threes being multiplied together. Okay, if we did that up here, that would be the same thing as 3 times, or 3 to the power of 2 plus 4. Okay, which is the same as the power of 3, or 3 to the power of 6. Okay, so either way you look at that, you get 3 to the 6th, which is what we're looking for here. Okay, so whenever we have powers with the same base, you're just going to add their exponents together. All right, and that's the main thing for 1.3, at least for this part. Okay, and then real quickly, I want to show you example 2, because it's the same idea, but this one is with variables instead of with actual numbers. Okay, so we do the same thing. Whenever we see this, we're just going to add their exponents together. So that's going to be c to the 3 plus 5, which is the same as c to the 8th power. Okay, and that's all you got to do for that one. Again, not too difficult, not really very many steps. As long as you remember that rule, you're going to have no problem with this. All right, so I want you to try out A and B on your own, and then we will go ahead and move on from there. Okay, so now we are on 25, page 25. Okay, the same way when we multiply two numbers that have the same base, or two exponents that have the same base, we're going to subtract when we're dividing two powers with the same base. Okay, so the example that they give us is 3 to the 7th power over 3 to the 3rd power. All right, so if we look at this the long way, we have 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Lots of 3's. Okay, and then on the bottom we have 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, now if I was to simplify this, I can look at each number individually. So I have 3 divided by 3. That's just going to be 1 because those two are going to cancel out. So we can get rid of those. Okay, then I can do the same thing here. We have 3 and 3. Those two cancel out because 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, and then lastly we have 3 and 3 here. So we have 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we can cancel those out as well. Now remember, we still have 1 on the bottom. Okay, but we don't have to add that in when we're looking at multiplication and division. Okay, so now we have 4 3's left over, okay, which gives us 3 to the 4th power, since they're all multiplied together, over 1, which equals 3 to the 4th power. Okay, that's the long way. The way that I'm telling you should do this is when we go from here, you're just going to do 3 to the 7th minus the 3rd. Okay, so 3 to the power of 7 minus 3. 7 minus 3 is 4. So there we go. We got the same answer both times. All right, and that's it for doing those problems. Okay. Yeah, so that's really the main thing there. I want you to go ahead and try out D and E. Okay, try those out on your own. And then that is going to be it for this video. So it was a little bit longer, but we went through 2 lessons instead of the 1 and just combined them. And we will go over all of this in class in order to clear up any misunderstandings or anything that you're struggling with a little bit still. So don't worry about that. We'll get to it in class. Hopefully you took good notes, and I will see you guys in class.